reason why I think people are more risk averse. Uh, One is, the concept of FOMO. The other is also with the amount of options which are available to invest in these days, it creates an overwhelm. What complicates things also are people showing you their portfolio numbers, or rather these screenshots that you see circulated on WhatsApp and Twitter and wherever. And I think when you look at those kind of screenshots, it shakes you up internally. Like, am I doing something wrong? And you're like, hey, my score is nothing, man. And look at these people. They have the portfolios, like the runs that Tendulkar and Virat Kohli are scoring.
Right.
So how does one again maintain sanity as well as like an asset allocation, uh, particularly when it comes to comparing portfolios?
Yeah. So, I am part of a running group here in Mumbai, and like you said, there are people at all levels in my running group, right? So there are some folks who have just joined and are starting training. Uh, in my case, I have been running for almost 13 years. I have run quite a few full marathons also. But then there are other folks in my running group who recently, ran the Comrades Marathon, which is like a 90-kilometer race in South Africa, and came back, and they have run it in less than 10 hours and stuff, right? So naturally, if look at their achievements and compare myself, I would think, hey, I'm nothing, man. I've been running more than 12, 13 years, and still I can just run 42 kilometers, right? Uh, but then obviously, you and me know that approach just doesn't work, right? I mean, it's not the right way to think about it. There's no reason for me to compare myself to them. That is one. Second thing, also in my experience, when I started running full marathons, I remember my first full marathon. After about 25, 26 kilometers, you start feeling tired, and I started getting cramps, and I recovered, and I was slowly making my way forward, and I could see a lot of women, and girls passing me by. And at first I thought, hey, come on, yeah, like even women are running faster than me. Like, what's this? And so that those thoughts used to come in my mind, right? And then, but over time, I realized, when you're running a marathon, you are only running your own race, right? So all you worry about after, let's say, 32, 33 kilometers, you're only focusing on the finish line and reaching that finish line, right? Because by that time, you are so tired, both mentally and physically, that nobody else matters to you anymore, right? Your mind is just focusing on, hey, man, I just want to reach that finish line, right? So that's how things progress. So I realized that, in my next marathon, my entire focus after 32 kilometers is going to be reaching that 42.2-kilometer finish line, right? So I stopped worrying about other people around me. That was the first realization, that I'm running my own race. But then over the years, the other thing I figured out is, forget about the race right now. Like you mentioned in the beginning, all I focus on is, my heart rate and my breathing, and what is my sustainable pace, and following my run walk strategy, right? And I've realized that if I do that properly, then I enjoy the marathon really, right? And if I don't do that properly, then I end up feeling miserable. Like, even if I finish the marathon, I don't feel good, right? Whereas if I do everything right, the basics, then I really enjoy the marathon, and the timing doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, who crossed me, or which position I came in. Those things nobody cares about, and it doesn't matter to a runner also, right? So just focus on the basics, and just think about your goals right now in our life. I realized, what is important for me. It was okay, saving for my daughter's education, or it might be for a marriage, or it might be for the down payment for my home, it might be for my retirement. As long as I'm meeting those goals, it doesn't matter to me what others are doing, how big their corpus is, right? And this realization comes over time, right? You and me both know, like, once we go through life at different stages, our maturity levels are different. And once you reach a certain point, just like, when you reach 32, 33 kilometers in a marathon, you realize, hey, man, nothing else matters, right? It's just you and your race, and you have to reach the finish line. It's the same thing. Once you reach a certain point in life, you realize nothing else matters. It's basically whatever goals you have, and you just have to reach those goals.
I agree, and what you say applies to other walks of life, including our careers as well.
Yes.
Because when I started running for long distances, and the first race or running group you're a part of, you people overwhelm you with the tools that they have. There'll be people who run with that high-end shoe. You're like, hey man, that shoe costs $500, and when you're running with, let's say, a $50 or $100 shoe, like,
Right.
man, these people are at a whole different level. Then some people will have, like, how they have these grenade belts that they show in military. They'll have
Yeah.
those kind of belts with different rings and different gels coming out. I'm like, I have nothing. What do I do? But then once you hit your rhythm, that's what matters. How you feel, and your pace, your comfort level. That's the only thing in your control. But it's hard to tune off that distraction. I think that's the biggest time. Like, getting that, getting to that stage where you're like, what the others do are not mattering.
Exactly. And at least for me, I mean, just going back to the marathon analogy, just what works is just focusing on my breathing, right? If I do that right, then just everything else kind of, you zone out of everything else, right? And that's the same thing in when it comes to investing, right? So if you focus on the basic principles of asset allocation, rebalancing, you will take the right decisions. If you get distracted by what others are doing, or like get in either in FOMO or in panic, then you'll end up taking the wrong decisions. So just have a simple basic framework in mind, and run your financial independence marathon.